Have you ever had a moment in your life where you're trying to say a word and you know that word is right at the tip of your tongue, but you just can't remember what the word is? That that feeling in that moment is what dyslexia is. And so many people think that dyslexia is just this one symptom that everyone thinks this knows about dyslexia. But there's so many other things about it. And so I'm going to tell you what dyslexia is, how it's diagnosed, and also some of the ways that people with dyslexia get help. Because it's such a common disability. Um, Harvard Health says that 5 to 10% of people have a varying kind of dyslexia. In fact, I am in that 5 to 10% of people. I have dyslexia. So, let's talk about dyslexia. Um, it is flipping around letters, but you're flipping them around and not reading Greek like in Percy Jackson. Um, Dyslexia is characterized as a spatial reversal shifts. It can affect reading, writing, spelling, and on occasion it can affect math. And dyslexia sticks with you throughout your whole life. It's not something that'll go away after some time. It sticks with you. So some of the symptoms of it are like you're trying to look or write a B and you think it's a D, or you're writing a D, or you're trying to write a 6 and you accidentally write a 9. The shifts of those letters, just one of the symptoms. Another symptom is you read something and you've read it and you know you've read it, but you just can't figure out what it was about, or you can't comprehend what you've just read. So, those are some of the symptoms and just some of just what dyslexia is. So, now let's talk about how it's diagnosed and how people figure out they have dyslexia. So, one way is that you can get tested for it. There are tests out there that will test your reading, your writing, your math, and will look at other people your age and compare it to those and see where you're at. And those tests can be taken at any point. You don't have to just take them as a kid. You can take them at any point. But they do have some things to look at when you're a kid to help notice that you have dyslexia. One of those is that you don't want to read out loud, or when you're reading out loud, you're stumbling words and you can't really continue to read out loud. Another is when you're sounding out words, you can't fully sound them out. You can't sound them out at all, and sometimes you'll be given a made-up word to sound out, and you can't even sound that out. The next way to get diagnosed with it is to go to a doctor. These doctors will look at your family history, and see if anyone else in your family has dyslexia, because dyslexia is most commonly inherited from someone in your family, and it's come down to you, and now you have it. They will also make sure that it actually is dyslexia and not another disability that it could be. They'll make sure that it actually is dyslexia and not ADHD or ADD or something like that. So next, we're going to talk about how people with dyslexia get help, because they do really need help in schooling and just whenever they're reading things. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how the people with dyslexia get help in school. And there are just so many things to do to help people with dyslexia in school. One of which is give them printed notes, giving them the printed notes so they can read it, and whenever they can't figure something out, they can go back and they don't have to look at their notes. They can look at notes that were given to them by the professor or teacher. Another is giving them extra time on the tests so that they can fully just slow down and comprehend the test so that they don't mess things up. Another place to help them is at home. And some of these ways to help them at home are just really easy, simple things to do. Just sitting down and reading with them so that you can test their reading skills. And in doing that, you should also make sure you're reading something about their hobby so that they're encouraged to continue to read, to grow their reading comprehension. Another thing you can do is to encourage them to read out loud so they can make sure they're understanding what they're reading and that they can read slowly. So, now you know what dyslexia is, how it's diagnosed, and also how people with dyslexia get help. Just when you know people have dyslexia, just remember to slow down with them so that they can fully express what they're trying to say and so that they can understand what you're trying to tell them.